You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of a short story through to line edits of a full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Way. And we built this country called the USA, and we fly our flag cause we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our way of life. Never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights, we're Americans. We fish the waters and we hunt the lands. We forge the steel with our own two hands. With what we've got, we do the best we can, we're Americans.
It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show. Now, here's Grouchy.
Good evening, everybody. Glad you're here tonight. We're going to wind one up. It's the middle of December, You got, what's the 14th? You got, effectively 10 days left before you got to have it done. 9.5, if you're guys like me, you got plenty of time for shopping still. That's what this weekend is for and part of next week. And, we get it done. We just don't have to go out and do it all the time, every time like everybody else does. We're dudes. We don't do it that way. My wife gets frustrated with me the way I shop versus the way she shops. I need a white shirt. I find one that fits. I buy it. I don't care how much it costs. End of story. I'm getting out of there. My time's worth more than what I'll save. But anyway, I digress. Welcome into the program. Glad to have you here. You're going to want to stay tuned to KLRN Radio tonight because right after yours truly, you're going to get Jesse's POV, followed by Constitution and Culture with Dan and Susan, and then America Off the Rails with Rick. It is a grand slam of conservative talk radio right here every Wednesday on KLRN Radio, your home for liberty and reason. Now, as I promised last week, and I probably shouldn't have once I bit into the cookie and realized how big this freaking cookie is, we're going to do a micro on macroeconomics and our government's involvement in our economy. This could be a 10-week series. I kid you not. What I was able to unearth in the last week researching, I've put some notes together here. We're going to be going through. It's not the most exciting stuff in the world, folks. I'm going to tell you now, it's really not, but it's so important to understand things. Should our government be involved in our economy? At all? Maybe some. Yes, but with limitations, or free willy, let them go crazy. You have to know the difference and what's important and what's not to you. I have compiled all kinds of notes that come from all different aspects of economic viewpoints. So you're going to hear me saying some things that you're going to go, what the heck? Take it all in stride. These are just different viewpoints from different economists on how the government should be involved in our economy or whether they should be involved in our economy and to what level. I'm not advocating for anything outside of what the Constitution infers to our government as a power vested in them. Beyond that, I still have a lot to learn about this too. So we're gonna go through this together. And, we're going to watch the Trump administration as it comes on board. And we're going to see if they involve the government too deeply into our economy. And, we're going to see what their end game is, I guess eventually. We know what they're saying the game is they want to create jobs and they want to help Americans do better. But isn't that what every administration says? Isn't that what Obama's administration wanted to do? They were going to redistribute the wealth to make everybody better. What's that got us? They like to tout that unemployment is down to 4.6%, but we covered that load of manure, and we know that's because there are people that are just dropping out of the labor force, not looking for work anymore, and they don't get counted as unemployed. Therefore, the unemployment rate drops. That's not the kind of government involvement we need. But again, let's back up and start from the beginning, okay? Because the United States economy is driven by perhaps the best example of a consumer-based society and a capital-driven citizenry, it's important to understand and interpret what role the United States government plays in the operations of our economy. Historically, the degree to which the government has played a role in the economic structure of the country has defined the large differences in the outlook and well-being of the citizens of the United States. Whether this meant the institution of greater social programs and economic safety nets under FDR's New Deal, or the lessening of government influence in the capitalist days of Reaganomics, the role of the United States government in the acquisition and redistribution of money in society is central to understanding the relationship between resources and the citizenry. Though the United States has been the world's foremost economic power for at least the last 50 years, it is not without difficulty that the earning potential of such a vast landmass and a disparate group of people is converted into basic services such as healthcare or education systems. You know, we got individual Americans normally pay out a rather large portion of their earnings to income taxes. Because the government is such a vast, complex system, it's extremely difficult for tax revenues to be converted easily into social services. Services presumably what your taxes are meant for. The government as a bureaucracy needs some of that money just to stay up and running as well. However, the ways in which particular governments go about spending American tax dollars is most illustrative to what the government's role in our economy actually is. Every election campaign, we see the differing opinions on what this role should be. Usually, one party is advocating less taxes and hence less government spending, and the opposing party proposing higher taxes in favor of distributing the money through allegedly sound governmental planning. Now, I don't know about you listening out there. Me, myself, I like to be in charge of my money. I don't like the government to be in charge of my money. I like to determine how I get to spend my money, not the government telling me how we're going to spend it. That's just my take. Okay? Yours may be different, and that's okay. We can argue the point back and forth all day long, some other day. What does this all mean for the economy? Well, the economy and the government, they're both dependent upon one another, basically. You know, along with a lessening of governmental involvement in social services comes a more privatized, individuated society with lesser social responsibilities. You know, and that's not my term, folks. Social responsibility. You can want more privatized and less government involvement and still be a socially responsible person to your fellow man. Don't take that out of context. It's just a term. However, with increased taxes or more governmental control over certain aspects of social services comes greater difficulty in how to properly distribute the funds from coffers. But in the end, and this is the point I was driving at a little while ago already, in the end, it's the growth of the economy that is most often on the minds of the American citizen. Is the economy strong and getting stronger? There are, of course, differing philosophies on how best to create a successful economy. Some believe less taxation from the government will increase individual buying power and thus cause business profits to rise. I like that idea. Others believe that the types of benefits that come from the government ought to use tax dollars to fund, let me reread that. Others believe that the types of benefits that come from government ought to use American tax dollars to fund them and are essential to forming a strong, stable economy with less likelihood of overproduction or collapse. All right, so you're talking about the balancing act here, and it's not an easy one. It's not. Okay? Both systems of thought produce certain effects on not only our economy, but on the mindset of us as citizens. Which system is better in the long run? Well, I know what gets my vote, but only the fortune tellers are going to be able to find out, it seems. But one thing for certain is that the future of the United States economic prosperity will be contingent on a degree to which its enormous government plays a role. Now, is there a role for government in the economy? Some people actually say no. But heritage analyst Karen Campbell says there is a role for government in the economy. Here's her stipulation, though. The government must focus on maintaining economic stability. Fiscal responsibility is an important part of that stability. Government debt can quickly become a burden on the economy and weaken its foundations. Sound macroeconomic policies enhance the credibility of the government and strengthen the political institutions. This credibility is vital for economic stability and Americans' long-term investment decisions that allow the U.S. economy to flourish. Okay, I get that. Heritage, if you don't know about Heritage, they are a conservative leaning think tank, and they put that piece together. And we're going to break it down a little bit here and go a little bit more into their research, and we're going to word this in a way that's a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? Non-economist talk. You know, their lingo is bad. Breaking it out into lay speech is bad enough, but listening to them talk about it, oh my God, you just want to stab your own eyeballs out. So in order to restore economic stability, policymakers must focus on restoring the institutional role of governing, not government, governing. Government can provide a stable environment for economic growth when it can be depended upon to maintain the stability of currency, enforce and defend property rights, and provide oversight that assures private citizens that their transaction partners in the marketplace are held accountable. This will allow market participants to begin putting their resources back to work in the areas where they are most beneficial. After decades of lecturing developing countries on how to emerge from economic crisis and stimulate economic growth through sound government policies, United States policymakers and some economists are throwing out all their advice during the first major crisis test. This is particularly true when it comes to advice on accumulating more and more debt. President Barack Obama's Fiscal Irresponsibility Summit last February, yeah, I said irresponsibility. He called it responsibility, but he's got no business using that term. Come on, really. But last February, they indicated that the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act and the president's proposed budget makes the goals of a sustainable budget and addressing the nation's longer-term fiscal priorities, such as entitlement liabilities, even more elusive. Yeah, he didn't make it better, he made it worse. The Congressional Budget Office's recent Budget and Economic Outlook estimated the 2009 budget deficit to be $1.6 trillion. The administration's recently released mid-session review from the Office of Management and Budget estimates that over the next 10 years, the accumulated deficits will total $9 trillion. This means that the debt held by the public will be a staggering 77% of the gross domestic product in 2019. Folks, this is unsustainable, even for the greatest economy on the globe. If the debt level continues to grow faster than the economy, the U.S. will find that it owes more than it makes. Hello, knocking on heaven's door. Government spending and government deficits automatically increase during economic downturns due to more demands on social safety net provisions and falling tax revenues. Such spending can have a stabilizing effect on the economy because it happens automatically rather than through legislative acts, and the money is spent at times it is needed most. Borrowing and spending to stimulate the economy using legislative discretion is much more difficult to time for the right moment and is thus much riskier, as we're seeing. The funds are often not spent until long after the downturn has taken place and can prolong the downturn by crowding out productive investment and spending that would have otherwise. While painful, provide an opportunity to root out waste spending both in the public and this is because the opportunity cost of making fundamental reforms is lower during downturns. Makes sense. This opportunity to reassess processes and undertake reforms that make better use of resources should not be wasted. Deficits do matter. As with all of economic life, there are trade-offs. Government deficits have both positive and negative effects. Debt is a powerful tool that can magnify gains, but its leveraging power is dangerous because it also magnifies losses. Debt should be used to finance income-producing assets that will be used to pay back the debt. Using debt financing to pay for consumption or unproductive assets can lead to a sinkhole as the outflow of interest and principal payments become larger than the inflow of income. Folks, this is what we saw with Obama's big green movement. Remember how many billions upon billions of dollars they sunk into these green companies that all went belly up? There was no productive asset there. This was the huge sinkhole. And the outflow of interest and principal kept going. In the case of small budget deficits, though, the positive effects most likely outweigh the negative effects. For example, in increased risk and interest rates, as the deficit grows, the negative effects of adding to the nation's debt start to overwhelm any positive effects. Large deficits can contribute to price instability. If the government finances the deficit by printing money, it can lead to inflation. Hello, get ready for it, folks. It's going to hit us like a ton of bricks next year. Oh, where was I? Price instability, printing money, yes, depreciation of the currency, which makes foreign goods more expensive. This puts increasing pressure on the domestic price level by raising the price of imports. If the government issues debt, competition with businesses and other individuals for investment dollars results, increasing the cost of borrowing to finance productive investments in the private sector. A weak fiscal position can weaken the government's ability to provide security for property rights. Being over-leveraged makes it that much more difficult to borrow in the face of a security crisis or other unforeseen catastrophe. Now, data catastrophe. The government can also lose its role as a credible governing body of markets when it becomes an active participant in the markets. That means government pouring government money, your money, my money, tax money into privately held companies. Too big to fail? Sound familiar? Yeah. Careful arm's length oversight will promote clarity. so that reliable information about goods and services is available to those buying and selling in the market. Allowing good price signals to come out of the market system. This minimizes distortions and enables people to make the best possible decisions about how to spend their budgets. Now, that's been the micro look. We're looking at our economy and our taxpayers. But we all know it's a brave new world out there. And this is a global economy now. So in the economies that compete globally, the government's credibility is even more crucial. This credibility is dependent on the fiscal responsibility of the government. The International Monetary Fund, you might know them as some kind of criminal organization. I can't confirm or deny that. I've just heard rumors. Has long advocated fiscal restraint to establish credit for emerging economies. I don't know when that long advocated fiscal restraint was, but that is not them now. Now they give money out to whoever wants money, including some of their officers who just want some for their pockets. Anyway, the established credit of the United States is largely due to the strength of its financial institutions. The United States should not abuse its greater fiscal flexibility in terms of its debt, but instead should work to maintain the credit of the United States government. Preserving the credibility of the United States abroad is not only a diplomatic exercise. Large fiscal deficits in developed economies not only crowd out investment in the private sector, they compete with the debt issued by emerging economies. When many developed economies issue debt simultaneously, the cost and availability of funding for developing economies increases and limits the ability of the developing countries to raise much needed external funding as they work towards economic development. Sound fiscal policy and a credible commitment to deficit reduction will help keep the United States a world leader and good citizen of the global economy. So far, it all sounds like common sense, right, folks? I mean, really. Like I told you, it's dry stuff. It's even worse when you listen to it in economic ease. We got plenty more to cover here. Plenty more, trust me. I told you we could do months and months just on this, but who's got time for that or the inclination? The kitchen sink approach and danger to it. We're gonna talk about this for a minute. Many believe there's a danger in doing too little. In fact, the danger probably lies in trying to do too little, many different things in the hope that one of them will restore economic growth. By doing too much, there's a greater chance that policy effects will offset one another. For example, providing a tax cut on investments that gives people an incentive to invest while increasing government investment that raises the cost of investing. Ta-da! Yeah, that's no good. The investment ambitions, while admirable, can be achieved in a decentralized way if the government once again focuses its attention on its supportive role of providing a solid economic foundation. Given a stable foundation, private individuals can invest and produce the vibrant standard of living that meet the changing needs and wants of society. Just makes sense. We're going to touch on some institutional management when we come back. It is the bottom of the hour. We got to take a little pause for the cause. You're going to get a couple minutes of commercials, and when we come back, we're going to continue with government's involvement in the United States economy and why it should and shouldn't happen. Stay tuned.
Oh, but ain't that America? You and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby, ain't that America?
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
All right, yeah. Money. That's right. Little Pink Floyd coming back in from the break. Glad you hung around. We're going to move forward here. We just covered kitchen sink and, my God, where did I stop? Oh, yeah, institutional management. That's where I stopped. So before we get rolling again, just want to remind you at the top of the hour, Jesse's POV is coming up next, followed by Constitution and Culture, and then you get America Off the Rails. Trust me, Wednesday night TV still sucks. It has for the last 30 years. There's nothing on Wednesday night. So do yourself a favor and stay right here with KLRN Radio. You're going to be glad you did. You're always going to be learning something here. And Wednesday nights is now the Grand Slam. 4 shows back to back to back to back. Can't beat it. So anyway, institutional management. Government institutions must be managed well to guard their credibility in providing a just system of laws and enforcement. This can be starkly evident in less developed countries, but is no less true for developed countries. For a developed economy, well-run government institutions are no less important. Effective government institutions ensure that those employed in the public sector are doing their jobs effectively, with the goal of supporting the private sector, not competing against it. Rather than borrowing more money and creating new programs and layers of bureaucracy, this administration and Congress should, 1, focus on the election campaign promise of streamlining agencies. 2, exercise restraint in rushed deficit spending projects with no risk-return evaluation. 3, focus on financial regulatory reform. 4, reform the tax code. And 5, signal a commitment to trade rather than to protectionism. Okay? That doesn't mean free trade with everybody and we take the butt end of it like we have been. No. We're talking about fair, equitable trade. The first 2 points demonstrate a commitment to fiscal responsibility, which is why we haven't seen any in the last 8 years, and give an opportunity to review the purpose of agencies in light of current needs and changing technologies. This is going to help increase the level of accountability in both the private and public sectors, as evaluations shine the light on how operations have been conducted. Demonstrating fiscal responsibility also signals a commitment to supporting the United States currency, which will reassure America's trading partners. The third point, which was focused on financial regulatory reform, will help restore credibility to the United States financial institutions. It's well past time to modernize this country's financial regulatory system so that it can meet the challenges of today rather than reflect the structure of a market that no longer exists. This new system should be flexible and encourage the kind of innovation that has helped to provide low-cost financial services to millions of consumers, while also providing the credit that is necessary for economic growth. It's important that the recent stabilization in the financial, who wrote this? There's recent stabilization in the financial sector? Okay, I guess to be fair, it has stabilized. It's still pathetic, but it's stably pathetic. And other legislative agendas do not change the priority of this reform effort. So anyway, okay. The fourth, reform the tax code, should focus on simplification, transparency of the tax burden, and broadening the base and lowering overall rates. Hey, you mean like everybody should have some skin in the game? Yeah, I get that. Reducing the layers and complexity of the tax code frees up resources that citizens can put to more productive use. The Tax Foundation estimated back in 2005, individuals and nonprofits spent 6 billion hours complying with the federal tax code. Are you kidding me? That was 11 years ago. This amounts to an additional 22 cents per dollar of tax collected, which means that American citizens paid $1.22 for every $1 that the government received in tax revenue. Boom. Simplifying the tax code and streamlining the collection process would allow taxpayers to save this time and money, effectively giving them more disposable income. Increased disposable income can help people build wealth if they don't piss it away. Wealth is built by investing in assets. With house prices no longer rapidly appreciating, more productive asset investments might be in infrastructure, energy, health technology, and other assets of the future. Reducing marginal tax rates on income, both at the corporate and individual levels, increases the benefits that individuals and corporations receive from using their scarce resources to earn that income. This increased incentive is to use resources productively, and it creates greater economic growth. As the economy grows, more investments can be made, which in turn create more opportunities for growth, employment, and higher standards of living. Holy cow, it just makes sense, folks. Furthermore, economic growth generates higher tax revenues that support the governing institutions. This positive feedback effect is in fact a main motivation for many countries to undertake fundamental tax reforms. Lastly, trade protectionism requires economic controls, either in the form of subsidies, explicit or implicit, tariffs, or quotas. Import substitution policies have long been discredited by developed economies. Being more closed off to the global economy weakens an economy, forcing it to spend its resources on providing goods and services it could buy cheaper elsewhere, and foregoing production of goods and services it could sell abroad at higher prices than at home. This ultimately raises the costs on everyone and stifles economic growth. Remember what I said earlier? It's a tough act to balance. Okay? This is the part we don't like hearing about. You know, we want to see Americans working. We want to see that money generated at home. Again, it's a balancing act. This is the role of government, is to achieve that balance. And it's not easy. This is because sound macroeconomic policies enhance the credibility of the government and strengthen the political institution. This credibility is vital for the economic stability that is necessary for making long-term investment decisions. So in conclusion on this piece, citizens receive value from the government's role of making and enforcing laws that give the citizens the opportunity to freely pursue opportunities. Now let's just stop right there. This is not, and I repeat, not what Nancy Pelosi was referring to when people were getting their jobs reduced to 25 hours a week so that they wouldn't have to be provided health care. And she said that that's great because it frees people up to pursue their dreams and their opportunities elsewhere. No, this is not the same thing. The fact that the United States is a developed economy does not mean that the government does not need to take reform measures. The administration and Congress should not waste this opportunity to ensure that 21st century U.S. government institutions continue to provide a stable environment for individuals to freely pursue wealth-growing investments. Having an orderly governing body allows private citizens to make long-term investment decisions about their personal resources. A credible, crickets? Yeah, I know, Rick. A credible governing body contributes to the economic growth of a nation and provides the best opportunity to accomplish its national investment and growth goals through the entrepreneurial spirit of its citizens. Making fundamental changes to the rules and agencies that have become outdated and opaque will provide economic stability and give potential entrepreneurs the confidence to work toward meeting their ever-changing needs in the modern society. Now, let's back up a second. Okay? They talk about I heard crickets, Rick. I don't know. I'm just saying. Citizens should be free to pursue wealth-growing investments. They should make decisions about their personal resources. Now, if you remember just a couple of years ago, the Obama administration had bounced around ideas about seizing IRAs. That is not what we're talking about here, folks. That is the antithesis of what we're talking about. Obama's economy and what would have been Hillary's economy would have moved forward. We would have lost our private retirement accounts. I guarantee it would have happened because our economy would have gone complete collapse. And trust me, okay, the market's doing great since the election, and they're calling it the Trump effect. And okay, let's roll with that. And you know, flirting with 20,000 on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. You know, I don't know how much you know about that, but that number was heretofore perceived as unreachable. Folks, I promise you, even if we do hit 20,000, and I think we flirted with it, but I don't think we quite touched it yet. But even if we do, I promise you, there is another market correction coming. Okay? Just because Trump's going to take office doesn't mean everything's going to be hunky-dory. We are going to wade through years of Obama's garbage yet to come. There's no way around it. We can't defeat it. The programs that he's enacted to keep inflation down, they're going to come to a halt. The Trump administration, I can't see them continuing on pumping $80 billion a month into the economy to keep it stable and to keep inflation down. It's not going to happen. And that inflation is going to hit, and it's going to hit hard. Now, how long will it last? That's going to depend on what else the Trump administration does and what else the private industries in this country do to put Americans back to work and stimulate the economy. Okay? While consumers and producers obviously make most of the decisions that mold our economy, government activities have at least 4 powerful effects on the U.S. economy. And we're going to look at that real quick here. We got a little time still. Direct services. Each level of government provides direct services. The postal system, for example, is a federal system serving the entire nation, as is the large military establishment. By contrast, the construction and maintenance of most highways is the responsibility of individual state governments. The public education systems are primarily paid for by state, county, or city governments. And in general, police and fire protection are the responsibility of local governments. Regulation and control. The government regulates and controls private enterprise in many ways in order to ensure that business serves the best interests of the people as a whole. Regulation is usually considered necessary in areas where private enterprise has been granted a monopoly, such as an electric or telephone service, or in other areas where there is limited competition, like with railroads. Public policy permits such companies to make reasonable profits, but limits their ability to raise prices unfairly as defined by the regulators. Because of the public depending on these services, often control is exercised to protect the public. For example, when the Food and Drug Administration bans harmful drugs, it's a bad example. Wow, who wrote this crap? Or requires standards of quality in food. Now, that's a little better. In other industries, government sets guidelines to ensure fair competition without using direct control. In the 70s and 80s, Americans became increasingly divided on the issue of government regulation and the economy. Proponents argued that the government regulation was needed to protect consumers, workers, and the environment. Critics insisted that regulations interfered with free enterprise instead, or increased the cost of doing business and thus contributed to the inflation. These factors, coupled with rapid technological change, prompted President Jimmy Carter to reduce regulation of the transportation and communication industries in the 70s. Also at this time, federal agencies were encouraged to be more flexible in applying regulations. In the 80s, Reagan's legislative agenda, based largely on his belief that an unfettered private sector would assure economic prosperity and growth, pushed deregulation efforts still further. Regulations, or the implementation of regulations designed to protect workers, consumers, and the environment, were cut back. In addition, during the Reagan administration, a voluntary approach was taken to some regulations. For example, the Consumer Product Safety Commission adopted a voluntary compliance program allowing individual companies to design their own remedies for targeted safety programs. Now, they still had to come up with a program, but it just didn't tell them exactly how they had to do it. They gave them the leeway to develop it on their own. In the early 90s, the drive to push still further deregulation in a broad across-the-board manner appeared to have slowed considerably. Although proponents of deregulation continued to stress its benefits, criticism of how deregulation had actually worked in practice mounted. Airline deregulation, for example, initially fostered increased competition that lowered the cost of flying, but within a few years, a wave of airline mergers and consolidations shrank the number of airlines, and critics argued that the benefits of deregulation had either disappeared or become minor because there was less competition. On the other hand, deregulation of the telecommunications unquestionably brought increased competition to certain parts of the telephone services industry. At the same time, by the 1990s, the number of federal government officials occupied with regulatory matters was on the increase again after having been cut back during the 80s. According to an analysis of regulatory institution staffing by the Center for the Study of American Business, in 1992, the number of federal government regulatory officials was expected to be around 122,000, which surpassed the previous record set in 1980. The study particularly noted increases in staffing at agencies concerned with such activities as protection of the environment and regulation of the financial sector. These were areas where increasing numbers of Americans appeared to be troubled by disturbing events or trends. So says the study. Anyway, stabilization and growth. Branches of government, including Congress and such entities as the Federal Reserve System, attempt to control the extremes of boom and bust. This is what I told you the balancing act comes in, and of inflation and depression by adjusting tax rates, the money supply, and the use of credit. They can also affect the economy by changing the amount of public spending by the government itself. Although reluctant to do this, this is the number one way. Normally, the aim is at a balanced budget for the federal government, but since 1960, a deficit has prevailed in the federal accounts in every year except 1969 and has generally widened, reaching a high of some $200,000 million in the mid-1980s before dropping back again. Direct assistance. The government provides many kinds of help to businesses and individuals. For example, tariffs can permit certain products to remain relatively free from foreign competition. Imports are sometimes taxed or limited by volume so that American products can better compete with foreign goods. Government also provides aid to farmers by subsidizing prices they receive for their crops. In quite a different era, government supports individuals who cannot adequately care for themselves by making grants to low-income parents with dependent children, by providing medical care for the aged and indigent, and through social insurance programs that assist the unemployed and retirees. Government also supplies relief for the poor and help for the disabled. They also give to a lot of people that should be off of their sorry butts working out in the marketplace. Now, folks, we are coming back around to the top of the hour. I'm gonna not start on a new topic here. Like I told you, this could go on forever and ever and ever. But hopefully, this gives you a little background about how our government operates within the economy. Again, my opinion, it should be limited and balanced. There is a role for government, in my opinion. You may feel differently. You may think there's a bigger role for government than what I advocate for. Also, can be argued till doomsday, and we can sit here and talk about the pros and cons of it. The fact of the matter is it's up to our government to balance it all out and make our economy work for us, the people, the taxpayers. With that, I always urge you to do your own homework on these subjects. Always do your own homework. Don't take my word for it. Just listen to the show, gather the info, do your diligence on your end. Now, folks, next week, I am probably not going to be here. We will probably be doing a replay, and it's the holidays. I know if something changes, I'll be back and I'll get a show advertised out. But right now, count on a replay next Wednesday for me, and I should see you the week after. For now, I bid you farewell. I bid you Merry Christmas, not Happy Holidays. I bid you Merry Christmas. And all you freedom from religion freaks out there, you can piss off. I don't really care if you like that or not. Stay tuned for Jesse's POV coming up next right here on KLRN Radio. Again, after Jesse is Constitution and Culture with Dan and Susan, and then Rick Robinson with America Off the Rails. I am your host here, The Grouch. Thank you for being here. God bless. We'll see you next time.
Country called the USA, and we fly our flag 'cause we're proud and free, we're American.